Hi, welcome to another CSGO map analysis video. Here I have Basalt, map makers in the description as always. And as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, I do have NetGraph enabled. I figured even though I'm recording this, my hardware should be powerful enough to still offset that fact, and maybe it'll be a useful tool for the map maker who looks at this and says, oh yeah, his frame rate seemed to have dipped at this particular angle or something. I don't know, maybe it won't actually be that useful at all considering the fact that my hardware is probably not exactly the average hardware, and as I said earlier, I'm recording this in 60 FPS now, so take that for what you will, but maybe it'll be useful for somebody. So, Basalt. This is a map that I received very favorably when I actually ran through it the first time I looked at all of this, and, well, let's just say I think it'll still be pretty handy-dandy now. So we'll run through the map's layout, and then I will give my feedback. I think the most notable changes that have happened to this map since I last did a video, similar to Feast, is mostly like aesthetic things, very small things. They added some like visual noise on these buildings and stuff like that. They didn't really change too much about the map's layout. And it's rather unfortunate that they didn't change some things, because there's at least one thing that I'll show a little bit later on that definitely could have been changed, although you won't really have known about it unless you played on the map itself. So this map's art style is very clearly inspired by real-world things. I think they were in Iceland or something. I don't remember what they were called. Somebody in the comment section of the previous video corrected me when I said it seemed like it was something that didn't actually exist, and I thought that was cool. Either way, I think they did a good job delivering that. So this is T-spawn, of course. We're going to head towards the B-bomb site first, but worth noting that that's a middle of sorts, off to our right as soon as we walk in. Some very interesting angles you can take on this particular map. That sort of barn door area over there. I only call it barn door because it's red. Red building equals barn. I don't know if you knew that. So that little barn door over there is a nice little shot spot for the CTs to take op angles at. So it's cool to me that there is a dedicated op angle spot in mid, but it's also cool to me that it's very open. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't really expect a situation to arise where you can't just throw a flash and hope that it destroys the man that's over there. So pretty cool in my opinion. Anyway, like I said, we're going to B first. So this is B. The approach to B is a little bit weird. I mean, it has this like really obvious very large wall, and I struggle to wonder really what this could serve in terms of gameplay, because if you removed it, I mean, you would have like a little bit easier access over here. It's not like it adds or removes a lot from the area, right, from this zone on the approach to the B-bomb site, but I guess in a way, if you flashed people off this angle they were holding over there, you could like situate yourself over here and they wouldn't expect it, and then you could come over and surprise them, and something like that. I don't know. Just doesn't really seem like it's super important. Maybe a CT could make that spot work by, you know, jumping out here with a flash or something, but you're still very visible. I mean, that little patch of grass over there that we can see in the very far distance behind that barn is the T-spawn area. So you're very exposed if anybody's looking at you, just trying to get down there. So there's this neat little upper area that obviously you can choose to get yourself up as a terrorist by jumping, but you have to you don't really have to expose yourself to mid, but you have to walk across mid. So it's a rather safe rotation to make to get yourself a little bit closer to a favorable engagement for anybody who might be holding pretty far up on B. So that's cool. And we have B itself. Bomb site is limited to just this little square here. You step off of that, you can't plant. You can sort of plant over here, but that's about it. So something worth noting, I suppose. There's like that weird generator hum sound that you've probably already heard a few times unless you're listening on a phone or something and you can't hear basic shit, in which case I am sorry for your loss. Oh, cool, you can actually jump up here. So this might actually end up being one of those spots that would be rather overpowered, and obviously it also allows you to see more or less the map boundaries, but it's a self-boost, so it's cool in that regard. And I always like spots like that because it empowers you to make a decision. For one, it's kind of a noob trap as well, and I have some sick, twisted satisfaction when I see somebody who walks up and says, I can do this, and then they do it, and then they get fucking destroyed. That is always very entertaining to me. So if I were to play this map in MM or something, and somebody decided to walk up to this little electrical box and jump on top of it and then get domed in the head because it's like an obvious spot, even if this is smoked or whatever, that would just be very satisfying. Even if it was my teammate, I would be very happy with that. So with that said, don't remove that. Keep that in, man. I would love to see people die to that. I would love to kill people who are doing that, and I would love to somehow successfully make it work for me, even though I would probably be the one on the receiving end of all of those hypothetical examples. Tons of cover in the B-bomb site, many places to take angles from. You probably already noticed this little, not really a yellow brick road, but it's some kind of road, and it leads into this little back alley area where there's a casting couch for Harvey Weinstein, and then, of course, the CT spawn itself lets you poke back up over here. So we've come full circle. We see exactly what's going on here. Some more areas where you can jump on. You can obviously jump over here. Very nice. Can't self-boost anywhere else. I'm assuming that you can make your way over there. Let's just try it. Maybe we'll get kicked off. I don't know. No, it looks like you can. So this is probably one of those like one and done positions, right? I don't think. Maybe it is possible actually to make it over if you like long jump, but I'm gonna bet no. Maybe you'd have to hit like a long jump after a B-hop or something to actually land that kind of distance, I think. Of course, anybody who is a bit better than me at movement is free to try to prove me wrong. Be another reason to download the map, I guess. And generally speaking, one of the things that I like about this area is that it's aesthetically very distinct from the rest of the bomb site, as the other bomb site, as we'll see, but also the rest of the map, generally speaking. You really know when you're in the B bomb site. You know, these granite and stone walls and stuff that they have, the different art style to the buildings themselves sets this whole place apart a little bit. You know, color scheme, they're kind of similar to these, but these are much brighter, these O1 and O2 buildings, garages, I suppose. And even those are kind of like, you don't really look at these unless you're the CT's peeking out over here with a scout or something and then getting destroyed. So I'm not really sure that there is anything else on the map that looks kind of like this, but it's a nice way to, still rather plain, not very busy, doesn't distract you, but it's a nice way to know, oh, I'm in B. I'm home. I'm where I should be, literally. So this is a little connector between B and the middle of the map that I showed off very, very briefly earlier. This little van is a nice little spot, to give you all sorts of different parkour options. And that is, of course, the CT, or the T side of the little op duel there. So this would definitely have at least 2 people in it at every round, probably more than that. So it's kind of a busy, very important spot in that sense, but not visually busy, which is a very important thing as well. So many maps in Counter-Strike, as the community is finding out now that Swamp and Mutiny, and to a lesser extent Anubis, have come into the competitive, not really competitive map pool, but the scrimmage map pool at various points. I think Swamp is in casual or something. I actually did not fully check that stuff out, but I know that those maps have been around because people were going to my old video of Swamp back before it was updated, and when it still had that slowing mechanic for the walking and stuff. People were going back to that and being like, oh, this is a terrible map. I hate it. It doesn't perform very well for me and stuff like that. It's like, all right, well, you know, I can understand that maybe that wouldn't be very fun for you as somebody who gets low FPS in the game or whatever, but this is not the video to comment that on. I don't think the guy's checking the comments religiously since I made it like months ago. But anyway, the bottom line is that those maps are out there now, and they have very visually busy art styles. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's not necessarily as clean cut as something like Basalt or Feast. And let's just say there's no coincidence that I started off the videos on this particular channel about or with those particular maps, because they just appeal to me way more than any of the other ones do. Don't worry, I'll get to the other ones. I'll even get to the fucking Valve ones, but they're just not quite as clean cut, you know? I like a man who shaves. Get that 5 o'clock shadow shit out of here. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I guess I like a woman who shaves too, but you know what? This joke has already expired, so we'll just move on. Notably, you cannot jump all the way over here. Of course, very sad. We got a bot over here. He's taking in the view. This is one of the few areas, actually, of the map where the outskirts do not appear to be particularly, shall we say, populated. There's a difference between being busy, or not being very busy, and being fucking barren. We appear to have reached the ice wall at the end of the earth, but that's okay. I like that there's like a truck that appears to almost be hanging off the ridge or something. I wonder if this is like a reference or something. I'm not 100% sure, but that's pretty cool, actually. Just a little something there to throw you off a little bit. So this is the CT spawn. They do spawn right there by the bench, taking a seat. And this is the quick rotation into that op spot I mentioned before. You obviously have a nice advantage where you can more or less like, you can take a real deep angle actually. So you can be pretty far back insofar as like you can be checking over here, that's that upraised bit that they can take the stairs on, right? And you get here, I believe, faster than the T's do. But I think if you were to try to go further, that would be more of an even split. So it's not by much, even if you do get there faster than the T's do. And, you know, it is what it is. But I like the fact that there's that action-packed avenue that people can go. I'm not sure if it would be done every round. Like most rounds on Mirage, for example, there's always somebody peeking you from top of T or CT window, depending on which team you're on, right? So it's not really something that ends up being very interesting in the same way, because it's always happening. You know, it's rather constant. And that's to be expected. I'm not sure if this map would actually have the same issue, or if you even considered that an issue. This is the rotation into A from CT. There's actually 2 rotations into A from CT, and one of them is this little door over here, so you can climb up here to hold on to CT upper and have a slightly quicker rotation, either back down through CT spawn or through this little set of hallways that I showed off earlier that will take you to mid. CT spawn obviously being the safer route, if a bit more predictable as a route than the other one, but a safer one to go all the way back to B. A lot of really nice small details in just this approach. So for one, there's this little box, and you can use it to elevate your position to peek into just a little tiny piece of this this little barn door entrance. Because again, it's red building equals barn. We know this now. So that little barn door entrance, very, very nice touch. You have a small chance. As soon as they pop out, you can be killing them. And, well, I think that's cool. Of course, it's something that can be countered relatively easily. You can get flashed through this little building here. You can get a flash out. Although I'm not actually sure if you would end up being flashed. So say we were to prime a grenade, and then I have to remember, okay, it's H is my bind for reflashing. But like say I'm holding an angle over here, will I even get flashed? I don't think so. I would have to be over here, right? And even then, it's not for very long. So that actually might be an OP angle, but I like the fact that it exists. You can obviously just find a smoke for that area anyway, and that will solve the problem for you, but, you know, it's a nice little touch. It shows that the developers, you know, they worked, presumably they didn't start with this. They finalized the overall geometry, and then they worked on those fine-tuning bits to work them subtly into the environment so that they work. You know, it's even painted the right color. It's even a fucking communist tractor. Who would have guessed, dude? Even the farm equipment is commie. But, hey, I guess that fits with the barn door theme, so whatever. But otherwise, we, of course, have a variety of different angles you can take up on A. Very nice. Very obvious spray-painted outlines for where the bomb can be placed. No, you cannot plant it on the truck. I know, I want it to. And, yeah. Hopefully, we can make a change.org petition or something to fix that. This is the approach back down to T-spawn. Notably, there's a couple of different areas where if you were able to push out, you could become a lurker. You know, you're sitting behind register over here, you know, trying to just surprise somebody and smash this window and then jump through. Usually in one motion instead of 2 fucking jumps, but I'm bad at movement, so, you know. And then there's 2 different key routes that you can take to get to that A entrance from the T-spawn, one of which is the roundabout way that I just showed off that is going upper a little bit. And the other one is following this newly added, to me anyway, obviously. I played a very early draft of this map, but newly added to me, little road there, wooden road. Either way, you end up around here. Obviously, there's a couple of different things that you will probably immediately notice about this. For one, this little entrance allows you to jump up here and just lob grenades in, or go a step further, take a very aggressive angle. And if you are a CT and you don't know this map, you may not ever assume that you could get destroyed from that angle. You could be like holding this, waiting for somebody to come up. And admittedly, the developers did a good job in this context too, because it's not like it's not going to be in your field of view at all. Even if you're scoped in with an op, presumably you're going to be like over here where you're safe from such attacks, or you're going to be out here, in which case the guy's going to be very obvious. But I like the fact that there's a little bit of z-axis, right? Height associated with the taking of this particular contact point. I really like that. I think that adds a very different feel to the B-bomb site where there's no like looking through windows or whatever. There's not really elevating your Z before the fight. It's more about like, you know, repositioning after you take some shots. I think that's cool. Another window you can jump through and show off your movement skills is that one. Shave a second or two off of your rotation. And this leads to that upper part which you can jump from that little van to get to. And obviously this is Tfacing. So this is really a critical part of the puzzle here. And this is the one thing that I wish they had changed. Not because I don't like it, but because bots don't know how to open this fucking door. I have to blow this door up every single time. Even if I'm on the opposing team, just to get the bots out. Why? Just let them open the door. They also got like fucked up over by that window that I was talking about. I guess they're all trying to jump in and none of them are good at movement. Who would have guessed? But as this is a T-facing aspect, as this is a T-facing spot on the map, T's can get here a lot earlier. This is actually a nice way for a T to come out here. And obviously I'm using an op, but presumably they'd have a rifle in this particular instance, although maybe it wouldn't really matter. And they can take aim on anybody who might be supporting different angled CT from the B entrance, right? So your CT spots would probably be like in the barn over here, right? Or maybe if you were playing a bit more aggro, you might like take a position over here or take a position over here even. Although that's a very dangerous one. You're going to want to flash yourself into that angle. Could obviously take a position a little bit more deep, like you take a shot and then you reposition behind the box, presumably while crouching. That sort of stuff. You obviously can't elevate yourself up here without going all the way over here. So if you do have to take a shot, I would recommend doing it from up here or something so that you can take the shot and then run, ideally before they destroy you, right? So naturally you're going to want to do that. But definitely some interesting decisions to be made as the CT there. And one of those things that you can't exactly take for granted just because you got to be able to insulate yourself not only from angles such as the main ones, but angles such as these. Now, notably, the rotation time comes into play here. And, of course, the obvious sound cue of people running and or opening the door. Definitively the door. You can't not have the door make noise. So if you're out here and you're holding an angle and you are out in the courtyard, I mean, for one, you can take a position further back and this little green, what is that, like plating of some sort of, some sort of housing term. I don't know. I don't do the siding. That little piece of green siding will protect you. I'm not even sure if it's, is it bang? I guess you can bang. Yeah, okay, it's bang. So you can bang that, but odds are you're not going to know exactly where the guy is. So even then, I would say you're fairly protected behind that. And if you happen to be taking an angle or taking a fight over here, you should be able to hear the sound, either lock onto the guy, or just the more intelligent thing would probably be to reposition deeper into the barn. And then, you know, maybe try to take a fight and then run far, far away. So in that particular case, the sound cue makes it fair, but it's a really interesting approach to mid because usually the defending team is the one that has like the most amount of initial control. And while you technically do have the most amount of initial control, since the fastest way to mid from T spawn is this way that we're looking at right now, this way is not that much smaller, honestly, or that much longer. It's not quite as fast, like I said, even if you smash that window and make a sound cue to speed things up, like that motorcycle that just sped past my house while I'm recording, but it's still something where it's quite possible to make that work. Also, you can boost yourself up from the toolbox, but you become very vulnerable. I should mention that just because I said earlier that you can't boost yourself up from there, but I wasn't taking into account the toolbox. Anyway, the speed at which you can take that rotation means that this area is very volatile for the CTs to hold, right? And you almost have to have a guy who's taking an angle like this, waiting for it to open, which then creates a whole another set of permutations, like people flashing over this site. Or this little area. And it's one of those things that, again, one of the things that I mentioned back when I was doing this map the first time is this is one of the few maps where the middle of the map is compact enough to be easily understood by pretty much everybody, but also important enough that it feels like it's almost a bomb site unto itself. Like it has the significance of a bomb site because it's so close to the other bomb sites themselves that it's so very important in terms of the gameplay. And it's one of the things that I really wanted to see in terms of like if I could pick a map to be competitive, to be added to the competitive map pool, maybe played by the top teams in the world, this would probably be one of them. Honestly, this is one of those that I feel like you wouldn't have to change too much in order for it to feel good. And there's a lot of other maps that like I'm not nearly as confident with, we'll say. And this is certainly one where I think it's not that many tweaks away from being a top-level competitive map that will generate some really good games. It feels like there was enough attention to detail paid to the angles. It already has a lot of the polish that would be like considered end-stage polish in that regard, where they've really worked out the kinks in that sense. I mean, I thought about this regarding Sub-Zero as well, and that map never really took off in the same way, even though it was added to competitive and everything. Valve never decided to put it into the map pool. I don't know why they thought Vertigo was a better option, but, you know, Valve works in mysterious ways, or maybe they just don't work. I don't know. That. I'll leave it up to you, the viewer, to decide that one. But ultimately, this is one of those maps that definitely feels like just there's so much potential, I guess, is a good way to say it. There's a ton of potential in this map, and I really want to see it mined for that potential. I want to see people really study this map, find the lineups, do everything that they need to do. I want to see the map makers iterate on it just a little bit more, improve obviously like the bot pathfinding and stuff, but also more important things in theory, like the high-level competition of it, figuring out what spots might need to be adjusted in minor ways in order for it to be as good as it can be. Again, I don't have any immediate ideas. Maybe some small things like I'm just going to give up on that one because it took so long, but I'm sure there could be some small tweaks here and there, probably due to like related to clipping of certain areas where it should be a little bit easier to move up or something like that. Like I'm sure there's some areas like that around the rocks, but I mean, hey, even the stairs seem smooth, right? And even Valve can't fix that shit in their own maps sometimes. So listen, this is a quality map, and that's really what I'm saying here. So there's a lot of attention to detail. I think also just on a more constructural level, the structure of the map lends towards competitive understandings and tactics, but also introduces enough of its own unique ideas, like especially the middle of the map, to the point where it feels like there could be a lot of really exciting gunplay, but also a lot of really exciting tactics. And those are the two main paradigms that people look at competitive pro-level teams through. You know, they view them through those lenses of, are they a tactical team or are they a fragging team? And, you know, it's usually not just a binary answer, but to what degree do they personify either of those traits? And, you know, where do they wind up on the stratified spectrum? That's the word that I was looking for. And yeah, it's just one of those things that I would really like to see in action. So in short, Basalt is a map that definitely has a lot of potential, and I would like to see it happen. I would like to see everybody give this map a shot. And, you know, unfortunately, until I have more people actually interested in playing Counter-Strike in the community that I'm a part of, that I've fostered, we probably won't see like 5v5s on it or anything, but that would also be cool if we could get 9 other people interested in playing the maps. But otherwise, hope the video gave you some food for thought, and hopefully we'll see some updates to improve bot support and all that. And otherwise, hopefully we'll see the map itself, or maybe a better iteration of it in the distant, or maybe not so distant future, actually make it into the competitive pool. We need something better than Vertigo, at least. Come the fuck on, dude. And that's where I'll leave it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.